Hi guys, welcome to the channel, Project Fev, Tarot and More. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Sharon, I'm your intuitive empath, and I've been doing these readings called the Daily Vibe. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. For the past month, I've been very reliant on the cards and the interpretations given in the manual that comes in the packet with the cards. And I'm going to do a little bit of a transition where I'm going to kind of read from the book or gain some insight from the interpretation from the different books from the decks that might be used, or whatever I'm led to use. But I'm also going to try to channel a little bit more of my own intuition and kind of build on that. I'm pretty much in tune with a couple of my decks for the tarot, but this is really like the first time so far in my giftings and abilities where I'm really starting to step out kind of like with intuitive messages that don't include necessarily the cards. We'll see how it goes, you guys. Always leave comments and let me know what resonates with you. Kind of gives me a little bit of feedback as far as where my intuition is leading me, and you know, if it's always authentic, but I'm sometimes unsure about how accurate it's going to be. And that's me. That's my own thing, just to share with you that, you know, I don't think that I'm like this perfect guru all the time, and I'm stepping out on my own gifts, and that can be vulnerable sometimes. So I want to encourage you guys to do the same. If you still feel this vulnerability, or you still feel like maybe, you know, you can't, for whatever reason, you're giving yourself in your inner dialogue that you can't or you shouldn't, or there's some, you know, probably irrational reason why you're not stepping out on your gifts, I want to encourage you to just start somewhere. Start small. Start with your friends. Start with your family. And if your friends and family aren't supportive, I did a meetup group, you guys. Like, I got together in meetups and then a couple of other groups online for online chat support, and just started talking with people, and it was like they kind of illuminated for me, like, hey, that sounds like you're a you know, potential light worker. Hey, this sounds like you've got some energy healing capabilities and stuff like that. And as I'm learning more about all of that, it's resonating with me, and I'm finding out that, yeah, in fact, there's probably more to that, and I'm starting to step out in that and learn more about it, and signed up for a couple of conferences and classes, you guys. I think I'm going to get my certification in Reiki and just in life coaching and everything like that in general. And one of these days when I'm credentialed and everything, I'll sit down and do a video from like start to finish of what my whole story is. And you know, I had a significant relationship with someone with a mental illness. I had a significant relationship with someone that was a narcissist, and how all that turned out, and give you guys a little bit of background about some of the things that I've been through in my life and the ways that I had successfully overcome them mentally, emotionally, and psychologically in order to move on physically in the 3D linear space, and what that has basically been as an undergirthing, supporting energy for everything else that has happened, and basically catapulting my spiritual growth and my spiritual ascension. And I still have tons of questions, just like you guys. I'm asking the universe those questions too. And don't forget, you guys, these are my messages coming through, and I'm sharing them with you to see if it resonates and helps anybody out there, okay? So we had the card of change that came through yesterday. I still feel like this energy is relevant because we are all in a process of change. Transformation is really the word that comes up when it comes to spiritual change and ascension. So I'm going to go to the book a little bit here and talk about the frequency of change. Supports our ability to gracefully dance with the forever changing nature of reality. Okay, and that's something that is so kind of oxymoronic to me, the ever-changing nature of reality. So what does that really say about reality if it's ever-changing? You know, and is it evolution versus transformation? And is it intent based on choice, or is it predestined and predetermined based on, you know, this misnomer? I'm starting to realize, like, that was one of my questions always being raised in the church and in religion. I'll just say religion instead of the church. that it's like, are we creatures of free will, or does God have control? Because which is it? Because it doesn't seem like you should be able to have both. That kind of seems paradoxical to me. If it's not paradoxical, contradictory. And I think I'm starting to realize, like, free will in this life it's a misnomer. It's not free will. We have been granted the authority to choose and make choices, but the options that we have to choose from seem to be not as forthcoming as, like I can choose from anything in the world. And it's like, I don't know. We seem to be able to choose from the options that we allow ourselves to see, if that makes sense. And I feel like what's channeling for me now is that in order to really have choices and options the way that we'd like to, where the world is our oyster, we have to be able to perceive what those options are and then believe that they're potential or possibility for us. And what I'm also learning is that every choice is paradoxically or polarly linked with sacrifice. Every choice, 100%, you have to sacrifice something else to get to the goal or manifest, okay? And this is why in the evolution of change, whether it be spiritual, physical, mental, psychological, emotional, whatever transformation and change is happening in your life, at the fundamental basis of all of those situations is a choice. And with that choice comes not just the element of manifesting the ultimate desire of making that choice and why you make that choice, but in a linear sense and multidimensional sense now, as we move into the new paradigm and we recognize that we're deeper beings and more, there are even people who believe that we're like star seeds and from other dimensions and on this planet and still connected to those dimensions simultaneously. So the only way that I can think to say that is a multidimensional being connected to the different dimensions and aligning yourself to your deepest, most, centered, rooted part of yourself, to all of those multidimensional selves, or, the facets of all those different parts of your being. And keeping them in alignment together is about making the choice, that single choice, singularly getting all of those aspects of yourself on the same page and aligning all of that with the transformation and allowing that to happen emotionally, because change doesn't just happen emotionally. Okay, it happens in the mind, and when it happens in the mind, it happens in the emotion, whether the emotion triggers the transformation in the mind or whether the logic transforms the emotions, in the chakra pillar system. It doesn't matter which comes first, the chicken or the egg. The essential point is to recognize that with change, it's multifaceted. Even if you only change in a linear sense, where it's like, for me, I've lost a lot of weight and I've been on this diet and exercise program. But as I go through this, my body changes and I realize how fat I am in my thinking. And as I transition, because my body gets smaller and it takes up less space, my mind still thinks that the body is bigger and treats the space like I'm filling it the way that I used to. So there is something psychological about that. And then as I go through that and transition, there's an emotional element that I feel for still being attached to the fat version of me, or the larger version of me. And if fat is a trigger word for you guys, just understand there's literally no judgment in that statement whatsoever. It's just, I use the word for what it means, not the emotional intent or the trigger. So if it triggered you, work through the transformation, because I understand for me, sometimes the derogatory terms for those kinds of things are triggering. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. Is it's like sometimes we're triggered emotionally to change our perception. Sometimes we're triggered logically to change our emotional self. And sometimes it's linear and sometimes it's multidimensional. But it is never singular when we transform and change. It never happens just emotionally or just psychologically or just physically. It never, ever, ever does. It transforms from the psychological, mental, intellectual, emotional, and then in the behaviors as a new set point that changes your life. And that is that transformative energy. And it's when usually we're activating in it, where we're actually doing it tangibly in the 3D, in that linear space, that we go, oh my God, it's true, it's actually happening. And then it starts to change your life, and you kind of look back a little bit and you go, oh my God, it happened, it's really doing this. And I really believe, because we saw miracle energy come through, because it has to be that miracle energy that inspires this transformation and allows us to really assimilate what's happening as a result of these changes and this transformative energy. So I do feel intuitively led to say about realignment today is when you fall out of alignment. So if the word fat for you today ended up being a trigger and you fell out of alignment because there was a point of resistance emotionally in you that was now revealed, how do you get back into alignment for a productive day when you're talking about the energy of change and transformation? I feel like it's deep breath as soon as you become aware that these emotions are intense and that you've been triggered and you're out of alignment, or you seem off goal, or there's something that's keeping you tempted, okay? Because temptations are really alternate choices that you can make on your destination of choice for your manifested outcome, okay? So anything that's a temptation doesn't have to have a negative connotation. It could just be anything that makes you think about making a different decision, because manifesting your desire ends up not being your truest desire. It could be, it happens, okay? Which is okay, because it helps you learn and find out who you really are, transforming into your most authentic self, okay? So realignment today is going to be about, I do believe, surrender. So in that moment when you become aware that you've been triggered, just acknowledge it and say yes. That word triggered a deeper emotionally rooted problem or issue or perception that I have, and I don't need to do anything to change it except allow it to be. And then ask, okay, I think like this is going to be about asking our deeper selves, what is my truth? What is my truth? Okay, does the word fat have to have a negative connotation for me? No. Does it trigger me because I know I should be treating myself better and I don't? Does it really trigger the neglect and the lack of self-love? Because that's what it used to do for me. Anytime I heard that word, I would feel the guilt and shame of not taking better care of myself. I'm taking care of all these other people, and it's not okay that I resent that I'm taking care of them when I know I could take care of myself. I just am choosing not to. No one's a martyr or a victim to themselves unless you allow it, okay? So I do feel like this is going to be about surrender. Surrender to whatever that feeling is, surrender to whatever that process is, and that's when the healing and transformation comes, you guys. And then ask for realignment, okay? What is my truth? And get down to the bottom of that for today. And let's see what happens. I don't think we're out of this energy of change. Transformation isn't overnight. It's not going to be in a 12-hour waking hour for your day. There's going to be several different elements to this, and it's going to take place over some time. And that's okay, as long as you guys are actively participating in it through either allowance, surrender, activation, manifesting. Okay, everybody's on a different page or in a different part of the process based on what you've already accomplished or what you've already pursued. And I think that change is a really big word to really describe a very simple concept, which is something that happens whether you actively participate or it doesn't. Change is inevitable. That's the concept. Change is inevitable. It's going to happen. So surrender. Today about surrender for realignment, okay? And finding more of your inner truth and recognizing what that is and walking in that, and you will find your happiness. It will just come as a result of making those choices. Alrighty, you guys, I hope that resonated with you for today. What is today? The 5th, the energy of June 5th. And, thank you guys so much for tuning into the Daily Vibe. I see that I have some people who are leaving comments, and my new subscribers, I'm glad you guys are here. I always just love coming onto the channel and seeing it grow, seeing that more people are interested in everything that we're doing here, okay? Like, subscribe, help the message circulate, and leave comments, you guys. Let's have a dialogue. Open the dialogue that can potentially help others today, okay? Namaste.